Hello and welcome to our AvePoint Online Services Foundation Technical Training course. My name is Ron Delaney, the Training and Development Manager here at AvePoint. Our agenda for this session: first we'll start with an intro to AvePoint Online Services for anyone who's watching this and may not be familiar with the platform. We'll dive into the AOS architecture a little bit for the cloud. Accessing AOS, how do you actually go in and log on to the AOS platform? And then we'll finish up with a brief introduction of the usage videos which will follow this recording. Note that these trainings are designed to get you up and running in the solutions and services as quickly as possible. And for more information on any of the different offerings from AvePoint, please take a look at our user guides, which you can find right on avepoint.com. So let's jump right in with an introduction to AvePoint Online Services. A lot of organizations move to the cloud and platforms like Office 365 in the hopes that it will alleviate at least some of their administrative burden on their service infrastructures. Essentially, I don't want to have to manage my own machines anymore. I don't want to have to manage my own services like Exchange and SharePoint and make sure that they're up and running. I don't want to have to constantly worry about backups and restores and just day-to-day management like settings, configurations, and permissions. What we find, though, in reality is that when we move to the cloud, we still have all of these things that need to get accomplished. The difference is that they're just not needing to be accomplished on our own on-prem infrastructures. We're not managing our own machines anymore, but you're still managing all of those different services that you're consuming. This necessitates the need for tools to manage those services. On the administration level, we're talking about day-to-day functionality, running backups and restores, managing configurations and settings, optimization, making sure those services are running as best as they can, making sure we're not wasting licenses, for instance. With security, you always have the permissions issue, especially in something like SharePoint Online, where unique permissions can be granted by users who have the access to do that. When we say monitoring, we're talking about general reporting for things like adoption, for usage, right? What are users specifically accessing? But reporting can go even deeper into that as well, like reporting on content lifecycle as an example. And then finally, of course, governance. Having a governance policy means that you have a way that you want that particular system or service to be used, and you then need to enforce that. At the same time, making sure that your users are being enabled to work within the framework of your policy and still get their jobs done. None of this has changed in moving from on-prem up into the cloud, right? So these tools are still necessary. So what do we provide? What does AvePoint provide in the form of AvePoint Online Services? Well, AOS is a cloud-hosted platform in which runs various services and solutions to help you perform all of the activities that we were just talking about, from day-to-day administration all the way through the ability to integrate cloud with on-premises resources, all in support of Office 365. What are some of the services that are actually available? Well, we have our cloud backup solution, cloud-hosted backup for Office 365, allowing you to back up your SharePoint Online site collections, your Exchange mailboxes, and other sources. Our cloud management service provides tools for your day-to-day administration requirements, everything from providing new SharePoint Online objects, creating new sites and new site collections, managing settings and configurations in there, and all your permissions tools. In addition to that, you've got some functionality around content restructuring and some rule-based governance functionality in there as well. Speaking of governance, we have our cloud governance solution, which is a premier solution that allows you to implement, enforce, and track your governance policies. And then we have cloud archiving. Archiving can mean different things to different people. If it means finding old content and removing it from SharePoint Online, great, we can do that. If it means locating content and marking it as read-only so that it remains available to users but they can no longer edit it, cloud archiving can handle that as well. Cloud Records is a records management solution for Office 365. Helps you keep track of your records, apply appropriate taxonomies across your records, even some lifecycle management options. So when something reaches a certain age, what to do with that content. Cloud Insights is a powerful reporting tool which can give you insight into the things that are happening within Office 365, like which users are accessing what content, for instance. FileShare Navigator Online is a solution that allows you to tie your on-prem file shares into SharePoint Online libraries to expose that information without moving it up into the cloud. And we have cloud backup solutions for non-Office 365 as well, which is going to be backup for Salesforce. If you're a Salesforce customer and you want to manage your own backup schedule, you want to be able to handle your own Salesforce restores, we have cloud backup for Salesforce. And we also have cloud backup for Dynamics 365, another Microsoft offering for CRM hosted in the cloud. All of these, again, are within the AOS platform. All of these are licensable on their own. So if a customer just needs a backup solution, great. If they're looking to enforce a governance policy, we've got them covered. If they have various reporting needs, we can make sure that we handle that as well. So what's the architecture for this actually look like for our service as a service where we're running this platform and all of these different services? Well, AvePoint Online Services is hosted 100% in Microsoft Azure. It is considered a full service SaaS built entirely in the cloud. And what that means is that there are no local installations on your network or on your client machines. It's simply not required. All you need is a browser and an internet connection. And you can hit AvePoint Online Services, access the specific service or services that you have licensed, and then get to configuring and running whatever types of profiles, plans, or jobs it is that you need. As mentioned, built entirely on MS Azure, also uses SQL Azure as necessary. There are some database requirements to store plans that are being saved for these services, schedules for those plans to run, and so on. So all in on Azure and SQL Azure. We do have multiple production environments around the globe, so that way customers can have their AOS tenant as close to their actual business environment as possible, rather than having to connect to a single data center across the globe. And of course, since you are not doing any local installs on your network anywhere on any of your client machines, that means that AvePoint manages high availability and makes sure that the system is well maintained. By well maintained, we mean that we routinely put out updates to AOS. Sometimes these are your kind of classic UI changes when we update the user interface. But even more often than that, we put out functional updates. This could introduce brand new features into an existing service. So one day you could log into a service you've licensed and have all new functionality there available for you. This also can include brand new service offerings. So keep an eye out for new things that roll out into AOS that may fill a different type of need. And AOS is both for customers and for partners. This means that AvePoint can take customers on directly, and those customers can go in and use the software to manage their environments. So if someone licenses Cloud Backup and they want to do a restore, that customer can log in directly, access the Cloud Backup service, and then execute their chosen restore. We also have a partner interface as well, primarily for managed service partners. A managed service partner is typically an organization that has their own Office 365 customers, essentially taking the role of that customer's administrator. So when that customer needs a backup, they contact the MSP, who then logs in on the customer's behalf, goes to the software, and then runs the restore. To summarize, AvePoint Online Services is the only SaaS platform available that supports Office 365. Again, entirely hosted in the cloud, entirely dedicated to the cloud. Within there are backup solutions, administrative solutions, reporting solutions, governance, archiving, and so on. And there are two different experiences depending on how you are working with AvePoint. If you're a customer, you have direct access to your services. If you're a managed service partner who is taking on Office 365 customers, well, we can work with you as well to make sure that you have an interface to review them and access the services that you are leveraging on their behalf. To actually connect into AOS, you would visit AvePointOnlineServices.com, and in the top right-hand corner, click Sign In. For customers, you have a few different choices for logging in. First would be to sign in with the Office 365 credentials. Office 365 credentials are required to establish your AvePoint Online Services tenant, because since AOS only supports Office 365, that's how AOS learns where the Office 365 tenant is. So you log in using global admin credentials, and it then knows, oh, I know where that is now. I've got the URLs. I can see where the management centers are, and so on. If you're not an Office 365 customer, or if you're a customer who's using Salesforce and have licensed specifically our Backup for Salesforce tool, then you can log in also with your Salesforce credentials. And the third and final option is what's called a local user. Local users can be created from within the AOS interface, and that's a user that only exists in AOS. It's not checking credentials against Office 365 or verifying your identity against Salesforce. You would log in using your Office 365 admin account to get into your AOS tenant, and then if you want to have quote-unquote local admins, then you could create local user accounts and use that login ID and password box below that rather than your Office 365 or Salesforce credentials. Now note, you cannot simply go to AvePoint Online Services, click Login, and then try to sign in with one of these methods. You must already have the AOS tenant essentially created, and you can do that a number of different ways. One would be starting a trial on AvePointOnlineServices.com. In the trial process, you will provide those credentials. So again, we can verify that there is indeed an Office 365 environment and authenticate against that using Office 365 as the example. For partners, partners need to work with an AvePoint partner manager to make sure that they get the account set up, the partner account set up, and then be able to log in. Now that we understand a little bit about the AOS platform and some of the services that are available in there, each of which will have its own dedicated training, of course, and how to access AvePoint Online Services, what's next in this particular program? Following this recording, we are going to have some usage videos. The usage videos are defined basically as walkthroughs to show you how to set up some of the different elements of that particular service or solution. In this case, we're going to look at platform level configurations for AvePoint Online Services. The first will be dynamic object registration, which is one of the most important things to set up in AOS, because that's where AOS goes and talks to Office 365 to build a catalog of your various Office 365 objects, your Exchange mailboxes, your SharePoint Online site collections, and so on. It does this so that tools like Cloud Backup know what exists in Office 365 and then can go out and look for those things to actually be able to back up. We'll talk about service accounts and app profiles, why they are necessary, what they actually do. We'll get into managing users, AOS users in particular, if you want to add additional AOS administrative accounts, for instance, so that various people can log in and manage the different services that are available there. And we'll finish up there with a discussion on some of the different reporting options available at the AOS tenant level, both collecting the data and actually reporting itself. Thank you for watching our AvePoint Online Services Foundation video, and have a great day.